Welcome to the Adoption Journey podcast. I'm your host, Tarsha Smith, and today I am so excited to have Autumn in the building with me. Now, if you don't know Autumn, and I'm going to let her tell a little bit more about herself, but she is the brainchild, the creator of Reckoning with the Primal Wound, which is an amazing documentary that if you've not seen it, you need to go see it. Hey, Autumn.
Hi, Tarsha. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for agreeing to come and talk to us today. So please tell the people just a little bit about yourself.
Gladly. Yeah, I'm Rebecca Autumn Samson, and in the adoption community, I like to be called Autumn. But it took me forever to finally decide to be like, you know what? Yes, call me Autumn.
And I'm going to tell the family why that is in a little bit. We'll get there.
Amazing. So I appreciate you asking. But yeah, I'm the director of Reckoning with the Primal Wound. I'm a domestic same-race adoptee from Nashville, Tennessee, and I grew up with another adopted brother and have reunited with my biological mother and that whole side of the family. She's one of 9, and they're from Ohio, and I have not reconnected with my biological father or the paternal side at all. So that's kind of where I am in my journey of reconnecting.
Okay. So can you tell me, how old were you when you found out that you were adopted?
I was 5.
5. And do you remember feeling any type of way about that? Or was it just like, oh, okay.
Oh, definitely. It shook me.
Really?
Yeah.
At 5?
Because I didn't think I was. As you don't. Yeah. I didn't know the concept really, even though I know my mom said she read us books. So I must have been familiar with adoption, but I didn't think it was like about my situation. So when they did sit us down one day, I remember, because we lived at one house until I was 6. So you know how you have vivid memories of where you lived.
Yeah.
And, it was, in the den, and they sat us down and we're like, you have another mommy and daddy out there. And at first you're like, okay, that's probably normal. I guess everybody does have another mommy and daddy out there. But I couldn't stop thinking from that moment on.
Yeah. So was your brother also adopted, or was he biological to them?
He's 2.5 years younger than me, and he's adopted as well.
Okay, so they have 2 adopted children. Okay,
yes.
Gotcha. So you're 5 years old and you're trying to figure this out. Did they just tell you and then there was no more conversation, or did they kind of guide you through this, what they just dropped on you?
If they did, I don't remember.
Okay.
And no, it wasn't something we brought up ever again that I remember. So that doesn't count. Like if it did happen and
Right, okay. Did you ask questions? Do you remember ever asking any questions, or you just kind of in your head?
In my head, and I was very in my head, which was mostly, I wonder if she loved me. For some reason, the other mom, I thought about the other mommy more. I think that's kind of common. And wondered if she loved me. Yeah.
I found out roughly around the same time, but I didn't feel like, I didn't have I wonder if she loved me. I just was like, I wonder what she looks like. I wonder like where she is. I wonder, and I knew I had a brother that was 2 years older than me. So I actually wondered about him a whole lot more than my birth mother, which is, I don't know.
What did you wonder?
Well, at the time I was an only child. I was only child up until I was 9. So I longed for that sibling. And so knowing I had one out there, I think that's why my imagination kind of drifted towards him a little bit more. And but I didn't feel any type of way. I didn't feel angry or shocked. I was literally like, oh, okay. And that's kind of where I just lived in my head.
Yeah.
And when I got a little bit older, like my teen years, is when I learned that how young she was. She was 13 when she had my brother and 15 when she had me. So then I was like, oh, okay. They were kids. But and I was living my best life. I had a good life. So while it was in the back of my mind, it wasn't like, I know some adoptees, like that's their whole focus. When they find out like they are in the pocket, that's where they are. That's not what, it wasn't like that.
Me neither. Somehow I didn't really think about it either. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't part of my everyday existence at all.
Right. Yeah. So me either. Did you have friends that were adopted or know anybody else that was adopted?
Really, there was a couple of kids at church, and I knew they were adopted too. And we never talked about it.
Yeah, it's like I think I knew a couple of people, and it's just like, okay, cool, I'm adopted too, and then you just kind of just keep living
No
your best.
support group. We walk like a mini.
Nobody's talking about it, and I don't even think no one's talking about it because it's like, oh my gosh, we don't talk about it. I think for me, I think when you're in your teen years, especially, like you're not mature enough to start having these types of conversations. That's just not what we're doing at 15 and 16. That's not what we're doing.
No,
So at what point do you start to realize, you know what, I'm about to go find my birth family? How old are you?
Well, actually, in college, that's when people started asking me more questions about it.
Huh.
Or maybe it just culminated to like, I reached a limit where I thought I should do something about it.
Okay.
People do, they ask you throughout your life. And I think I wanted to have an answer for them more than for my own personal. So I did do it though. I went through the whole thing with the Department of Tennessee. It was in Nashville, so it wasn't that difficult to figure out how to do it. But it took 11 months before they said, okay, we need $150 and we'll send you your records. And
now, did you have a closed adoption?
It was closed.
Most of us at that time? Okay.
Yes. And so I had to do that, and I did not have the money. I was 22. I just gone on a road trip, and we stopped it because I ran out of money.
Gotcha.
So isn't that weird timing? And so that's when I needed not even that much money, but it's common that people don't have that, and it's ridiculous that we have to pay anything to get our records. But I kind of took it as a sign, and I dropped the whole ball because they give you like 90 days, right? And then they close it. And I just didn't pursue it anymore. That was when I was 22. But then
hold on. Let me ask you this question. At 22, do your adoptive parents know that
I didn't tell them about trying to get my records because it wasn't like I was trying to find anyone per se.
Okay.
It was just the first step.
Got you. Okay, so when do you try again?
Then I'm traveling around. I run into adoptees randomly, and 3 in a row over the years asked me if I'd read The Primal Wound. I don't know if this happened to you.
It did not.
Or how you've heard about the book, but I was told over and over again, I was like, whatever, because I wasn't ready until the third one hit me in a different way. And I was like, I guess I should read this book. I did when I was 29, which is the most common age to start this whole journey of reconnecting. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
I didn't either beforehand, but then I was like, oh, yeah, 29 is when I really did it. But
Yeah, I was a little bit older, but yeah, I was just a couple of years older than 20, around that age, yeah.
so I think
Mhm.
that's interesting, fascinating. And my mom then is the one that suggested how. I did open up to her and tell her. So it was after reading the book, and then it was like, I have to do this. And then she helped me. She was like, contact the social worker. Here's her name. She was
Which
like,
is
Prince.
wild that you had the social worker's name. That's wild. But before we go there, I want to know what is your interpretation of the primal wound for those that don't know?
Hmm. The Primal Wound, the book by Nancy Verrier, did offer me an alternate narrative to the story of adoption is love that I'd never heard before or considered. So it was kind of, it like allowed me to grieve what I had lost and changed my life.
Hmm. Did you think that you had what is coined as adoption trauma until you read the book?
That's a good question. Um, I didn't think it out loud, but I knew it,
Mm.
looking back. And I think I knew it since I was 5. It had started and I didn't have words for it. And that's the whole problem, that Nancy was able to put words into this experience, even though she's
And
not deep. So I know that's the like
yeah, she's not
with her, but still managed to do it.
managed to do it. And you managed to do it in your documentary, for sure. For sure.
Thank you.
And I will tell you, because we're going to keep going into her story, don't worry. But I'm going to put a pin in that for just a second because I'm going to tell you what you did for me. Because when you hear the word trauma, you know what you think, just the basic definition of trauma. So I know how I grew up and I know I had a good life. And I'm like, I don't think, because you hear it's just a big brush. Every adoptee has adoption trauma. Okay, what does that mean? In your documentary, the way you broke that down, I said, yeah, I dealt with some of that. I can pinpoint some of those attributes in my own life. Now, I will say it wasn't like, I know some adoptees is really bad, and, I wasn't on that end of the spectrum, but I can identify it. And now I can say, okay, yeah, I dealt with some of those things and I see that. And like you said, I understood I had those things. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know why. I guess it's just this is just who I am. Oh, okay. I get it now. That's what your documentary did for me. And I
Thank
had
you.
a whole moment. I was like, oh my gosh. I told my husband, I was like, I'm having a whole moment over here.
Wow.
Any adoptee that is, if you don't know, if you're just to get an understanding of who you are as a person, go watch this documentary.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Like, also, so many people live so much of their lives feeling alone in these feelings that I think we all kind of have this collective experience of together, but we don't know that we do. So in Chicago, even there was somebody who was nearly 80 on the front row, and he had never considered any of this. And he was having a moment too.
Yeah, a moment. I'm your documentary is moments.
Moment inducing.
Okay, so your mom tells you find the social worker, and then
Just Google it right there, sitting there with her at the kitchen table, and find her email address and shoot off an email to her. And don't think she's going to respond because it says she's doing, like, she was a doctor and she was in Papua New Guinea.
Okay.
I don't know. Of course they have internet there, but still, I didn't expect her to respond. And she immediately did. And the weirdest part that I don't say much, so I don't know if people realize this, but Becky, the social worker, had just reconnected with Jill that year, 2012, that I also contacted her because they lost touch for a while. They'd been on and off and worked together even because they were both Nazarene in this community.
Now, and just so the family knows, who is Jill?
Jill is my biological, who prefers to be called a first mother. So
first mother. And yeah, that's the first time I had heard that term. And I was like, did she just say first mother? That is what she said. I never heard that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was new to me a couple years ago.
Yeah. So you connect with the social worker. She had connected with Jill, lo and behold.
Oh, yeah. Like within a day, I was like, this was so easy.
You know, I find that a lot with adoptees. It looks like when we tap in and then it just starts unraveling really fast. And we get all this information really quickly. And it's like, okay, give me a minute. I need to process this.
Wasn't ready. Did not think this through. Totally.
So, yeah, I get that. You're like, wait.
Well, to go back to the first time I tried to find her, and how it did not work. And when I was 22, when we finally did start talking this time, how many years later? Like 6, 7 years later, she told me that if I had been successful back then, she would have said no because she was going through a divorce. There's no way she would have added that in. And who knows if I would have tried again. So
that's my story too. When I first connected, I was about 20. And the adoption agency reached out, at least this is the story that I am told. And when they reached out to whomever, because, they have the records, they know who my birth family was. I was told that they reached out and they said, no, they do not want contact. It didn't discourage me, but it would be years later before I would try again. Wow. Oh, I wasn't discouraged. That's just my personality. I'm like,
well, that's amazing. And that's what I try to tell people when they tell me, well, your reunion's good now. It hasn't fallen apart yet. Or my parents didn't want to meet me. I'm like, it's got to be the perfect timing for both of you. And
it really
is nearly impossible.
Or you have to find, as my husband coined it, the layer underneath, meaning I found my brother. He didn't even know I existed. So, of course, he welcomed me with open arms and pulled me in. Now I'm here.
I love that.
So it could go that way too.
Yes, but I think that's always the way if you retain some hope.
It's probably a way. So,
wow.
Okay, we got to get back to Jill because your story is amazing.
Jill's a favorite. She should be, and she is a fan favorite, and I'm so glad.
Yeah. And just so the family knows, when you watch Reckoning with the Primal Wound, her story is not the only story being told. So I won't give it all, but there's other there's stories in there.
Stories in there, for sure. But it's like a lot of Jill's story. And I'm so glad that it ended up being so, I didn't know what was going to happen, but she's so and she hadn't processed damn near anything. So every time we turned the camera on, she was like real time processing this stuff for maybe which and people are always like, is Jill okay? And then in Q&As, if she's there, they're like, are you okay?
So imagine for your adoptive mother, because I'm sure she didn't think this was going to go like this either. So as this starts to unravel and here we are, what are your adoptive parents saying?
That another good question. And I don't know if you saw that we did a screening in Nashville about a month and a half ago.
I
At
saw
the
that.
beginning of August. It wasn't even that long ago. And that's where my parents live. And Jill was there. Becky, the social worker, was there. It was the most cast members in the same place ever. And I asked my parents to come like 5 times. But no. But it's not like they were boycotting it.
Right. They just couldn't do that.
They're not there, and I'm going to say yet, even though they're pretty staunchly never going to do a Q&A. They don't realize how many people want to see them and like them. And
yeah,
every time we were even talking about the screening before, and my mom, Martha Carroll, is saying such perfect things that I wish she would say in front of people, but she said she's shy. So, and not an activist, and still doesn't believe in the primal wound. And, but the biggest gift she's ever given me is saying that when I sent her the final cut, and she's the whole time like, I don't want to be on it, but I put her in the final cut anyways, and was like, I'll just show her and then I'll cut her out. And I was really depressed that week because I knew she was going to say, cut me out. And she watched it. Her and my dad watched it, and she texted me, "This is you and Jill's story. We have no notes. You can use it." So that's how all of that footage got in there. And that is such a gift, And like, I didn't expect that. And so I have no expectations on them to, do Q&As and walk with me through this distribution phase.
What I'm learning as I continue to have these conversations with our community, especially those of us that are around the same age, our adoptive parents, I think they were sold the story that once you adopt, that's going to be the end. They're not going to go looking. They're not going to come back. And they didn't know they were raising these little humans that were going to enter the technology world.
Or be filmmakers or podcasters.
Right. And they also, I feel like, didn't realize they were raising these little humans that were going to have all this curiosity about where we come from. I don't think people really gave that any thought. I think the consensus was if you give the child a good life, the end. And a lot of them gave us amazing lives, myself included.
Totally.
But that doesn't take away that natural curiosity of who am I? Where did I come from? What do you all look like? What's the story? What happened? That doesn't take away any of that. And now I think now in this day and age when people are adopting, I think that's a little more understood. That's 60s, 70s, 80s. It was
no.
Here you go. The end. Parents, it might be a little hard. Now, my parents have been so supportive. They believe that I should and have been totally supportive of me in the reunification journey. Because they understand I'm not replacing them. I'm not trying to replace them. They can never be replaced. That's my mama and daddy, period. They get that. But they understand there's another piece of me out there. And I have a right to know. And they're okay with that.
Great. And my parents, to be clear, have been supportive of my reunion with Jill. It's just the movie that they would rather not.
They were like, girl.
Oh, people are still watching now?
Yes, because it's amazing and you're helping so many people. So I want to know, because if you want the rest of her story, you're going to have to go watch Reckoning with the Primal Wound. I'm not giving all the secrets. But how did you come about? How did we get to making this film?
Oh, good question. Full of good questions. make it. This was not like a thing that I thought, oh, no one's done this before, let me do it. I mean, eventually it got to that because I felt like I had to, like,
Yeah.
but the impetus was just sending the already made movie that somebody else that was better at making movies than me had already made, I assumed, because the book had been out for 25 years, and I just wanted to send it to my family members who were on the struggle bus, is what I say, dealing with addiction. They're also, both of them were adopted. And I tried everything. I tried to get them to go to support groups, read the Primal Wound. This is before I'm in the community. I didn't know how many other resources there were. But then I thought a different medium, like people process information through documentaries. And I am a documentarian. So that was what I was looking for. Didn't find it. And was in my third trimester with my first pregnancy. So I started thinking how I could do it. I could just make the movie from an adoptee's perspective using like the concept of the primal wound. And then when I found out Nancy Verrier lived 45 minutes away from where I was at the time in California, was like, I could do this, I think. I mean, it keeps kind of, when you're in California, things maybe fall into place easier. Maybe, but they did, because David Brzezinski lived out there too. And this is all Bay Area. Nico was at the university that we were at the time. Like, just all started happening and people started saying yes. And I was this pregnant person. So I was just going to be like, from the neck, I didn't want to be in it. I just wanted to be a representative, or I didn't know what was going to happen. But as it went on, and then I had to be induced, and Jill was coming out, and she had to be there for 3 weeks because it took so long.
Yeah.
You know how it is being pregnant. You never know when you're going to go into labor, and then you don't go into labor. And the next thing you know, everybody's on edge for 3 weeks. So even in the hospital room, I was waiting with the camera. So that's how, like, you can't really plan to do an interview in a labor and delivery room, but
somehow you did it.
Like, I don't know. I guess we could talk about, having me to kill some time.
To hear you say, "Oh, I never wanted to do that," it's like, are you kidding me?
No. Would you want to take this on?
Yes, I thought, I guess from just, I'm outside looking in. So I guess I thought, you went through it, you processed it, you read the book, you're like, let me do a documentary component to that. See, I made all that up in my head.
A lot of people do that and they assume, but I clearly had no studio backing and was just like bebopping around with me and Sarah Davis were the crew.
True. A lot of times.
Nancy Verrier by myself. Yeah.
And the fact that she said yes is amazing.
It's amazing because she isn't known to say yes. So that was a lot of work.
Really?
Yeah, she was like misquoted in press and then slowly like stopped doing much.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. Yeah. So none of that comes off in the film, just so you know. Like, it just looks totally like, I'm gonna do this and this is gonna be great, and here we go, and here we are.
Special.
Yeah. I love it.
Thank you.
So are you happy with the project now that you're on the other side of it?
Yes. And I will say I sat on the footage for a year because I had no idea what to do with it. Like, there's so much footage, amazing interviews, right? All this like, Jill, what? Me, there's a baby now. There's a baby in it. and I didn't know what to do. And then Demetria Kaladimos, who is my mentor, she's like multi-Emmy award-winning journalist in Nashville, was the news anchor forever. She kind of helped me formulate the story arc with Jill. Jill helped me write it. Jill's got a PhD in rhetoric and is really good because my past, I swear they reshuffled it and put everything that was at the end that I had at the end at the beginning and made it make sense. But Demetria is the one that was like, your story of the box.
Don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Trailer, so people know it exists.
That's why I didn't mention the box. If you want to know what she's talking about, you got to go watch the documentary. Don't mention. But there's the box.
And that's why I'm in it.
Okay.
I didn't want to be in it. I wanted to just be behind the camera. But
gotcha.
Then it happened. So don't remember the question if you had a question.
Oh no, I was just asking, were you pleased with it now that you're on
it? But yes, I am. I'm proud of it even.
Very proud. As you should be.
Thank you.
Because like I told you, you helped me. And so I can only imagine the 80-year-old gentleman that you talked about on the front row. And especially him of his age, think about the era that he came from. You don't talk about this. I mean, that was the era of secrecy, like seriously. You don't talk about this. So you're helping people, which is amazing. So I want to ask, is there a part 2?
Yeah, there is a part 2. I haven't started filming really, but can you guess what it's about?
I don't know. Where is it a continuation? Are we going to get the parents this time? She's like, no.
Martha, Carol, and Robert. That's all we're going to see.
So what is part 2 going to be about?
Well, part 2, totally. And it's the number one question I get in Q&As is, what about your birth father?
I think I kind of wrote him off in my head because you already said you didn't.
Just didn't.
So you and I are on the same journey because I'm about to.
I know. Part 2, right?
Yes.
I think it should be about
here. You heard it here.
Isn't it? That would be incredible, though. But since the primal reckoning with the primal wound is all about mothers and that maternal separation, part 2 would be about fathers and the importance of that relationship and like, where is mine? Why haven't I looked? And then everybody else who is on the same journey. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And what you just said, I just never even considered, like the importance of the separation from the paternal side. We're going to find out, aren't we?
We're going to we are recording the video, right?
Yes, I'm recording.
Yes. This means in real time.
Because I hate that I didn't have the wherewithal to record when I did it the first time. I was just doing it. Now I have pictures. I didn't record anything back in 2012. This time, I'm getting it all on video.
Yep, me too.
All of it. So, yeah. But, so my final question for you, and it's one that I always end with. Tell me what you would say to any adoptee that wants to go through the reunification journey.
Oh, yeah. Such an important time to be kind to yourself, do a lot of positive self-talk, and be open to any outcome and realize nothing's permanent. So try to retain some hope if you get closed doors or it doesn't come out the way you want. Definitely do it. I would say trying to do it, you're going to learn so much about yourself, but definitely be kind to yourself through this process and reach out to anyone for support.
Absolutely. I love that. And just know that if you're tapped into, especially our community, like you, there's tons of support. We're here. We're out here.
We are. I'm very easy to find.
She is. And I am too.
You did Instagram DMs, right?
Yes.
Yes.
For sure. I want to thank you so much. It was an honor to do this interview with you. Thank you so much. Thank you. So until next time and next week, bye, family.